Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hey, Mouse, you are first here, and Sue's here. Hello to Sue and Mouse and anybody that is already lurking in the background, because lurkers are always welcome here. I hope you guys have had a good week so far, and I am being like super productive, which also means I am being super messy. There is stuff just all over the place, and that's okay, right? It's just like my brain is just like exploding all over the place. Is the volume okay? I left my mic stuff until the very last minute, so hopefully it's not too loud or too soft, and it is just right. Let me know in the comments. Yeah, creative messes are good ones. I agree. All right, let's come over to the right thing and switch over to this. Hey, Aunt. She says, I was here waiting. Okay, then maybe you get the bonus points for being here first. Hi, Carol. You have got such a mess going on your current project, Carol. I'm fascinated watching it unfold. It's terrific. So I have got a kind of blank slate. Hey, Regina, haven't seen you for a while. And I got, these are just, they're just suggestions of lines. Basically, what I want to do is stop myself from filling up the whole thing. I need something that's longer than it is wider. And this is some absolutely gorgeous wool and yak yarn from Lavender Sheep on Etsy. And I absolutely love Yvonne's yarns. No bonus for you. You weren't in chat. Oh, okay. Well, you get a bonus hey from me. How's that? And basically, I need French knots. I need lots of French knots because I've been so busy doing other things. You know, I've been making squiggly things. Hey, Barbara, that I can shape into kind of hills or grounds. Oh, and I can show you. Let's see. Before I start putting French knots on here, you may have already seen some of this on Instagram this morning, but I finally figured out what I was doing wrong on my branches, and I am so happy with my branches. So I will be making more of them tonight, and I have a limited amount of this yarn and yarns that will work for this, but I'm really excited about having these branches. I have another color. I'm not sure if they're too dark. So I'm not sure if this is too dark, but this isn't a good branch, but I might play with it a little bit more. What was the trick for branches? Remembering how branches are shaped. I was such a dingling. I'm like, just wrapping. And I'm like, wait a minute, you've got the fat ends at the wrong end. Now, part of it I couldn't control because when you get to the ends here, you want to wrap it back over, because I'm wrapping over wire so that it's not pokey. So what I had to do, stick people, absolutely. Hey, Andrea. So what I had done on some earlier ones is I had them, they were thin and fat and then it was like really thin here. And it's like, no, that's not the way branches are made. They're thinner out here and they're thicker at that part. And then I grabbed a smaller wire. So then I wired to the other wires. So I had thin wire here and thicker wire here. So then that added to it. So yeah, I just, and this is some very old 1-ply wool yarn. And the ply makes a difference in the way it looks for me. This is the look that I wanted. So yeah, I'm going to make more because I'm trying to figure out, I don't know how big this thing's going to be. Today, I have a new felt board coming that's 5 feet wide and 3 feet long. And so I'm thinking that will work for my piece. It's going to be maybe 4 by 2. I was going to have it go vertically, and I realized, no, I'm going to have it go landscape. So we'll have the water and all the stuff happening. And because this is just the beginning of this piece, on this section, I can just make green French knots any which way. And then I will fill in with another shade of green. I'm not sure what, but it probably wants something I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. Well, good question. Mouse says, do you need to have a full wire armature before wrapping, or do you add wires as you go? When I first started, I started with just pipe cleaners and was just kind of trying to figure out as I went, because I hadn't done enough of them to really have a feel for how they were supposed to go. And I hadn't spent the time that I should have just kind of looking at branches. And so then when I got done and I realized what I had done, I was able to go back and I just made longer branches by adding the wire, which did take up a lot of my yarn, of which I have a very small amount left. So I'm going to be looking on Etsy today for some more that I can, if I can't find one ply, some yarn that I can separate. Then when I made a new one last night, I did take a pipe cleaner and mess with it how I sort of wanted it, and then add a smaller wire at the end. And then I still kept dinking with it as I was going. Now, there are some people that just wrap the yarn around actual sticks, and I just haven't decided how I feel about that, whether it might invite bugs, whether they might crack and break and not be as forgiving as the pipe cleaners. I just haven't made up my mind about that yet, but I'm excited to finally have those. And tonight I will work on my logs. That's the next thing, is I need some logs, and I've got some mulberry bark that I will be using for that, and wrap it around some stuffing of things. I actually have some things that are already ready to go to make logs. I just need to stitch things down. So let me know what's going on with everybody else. I'm kind of like, yesterday I had 2 really good artsy meetings, so my brain is sort of on fire right now, which is great. I love that. Just finished rewriting my artist statement, which I've got to get up on my website later. So let me know what's happening in your world. Who's doing what? And of course, working on the branches then gave me ideas. Yeah, wrap sticks won't be bendable like wire. Exactly. And sometimes that would be preferable, to be able to bend them where I want them. The thing is about wrap sticks, I just worry about the longevity. If I'm trying to create pieces that are taking me months to do because I want to enter them in shows and they're going to have to travel, sticks break. And what would it look like, if you had a stick and it broke, and then all the yarn would be coming off? And Mouse, she said, do you use actual specific nature as references, or do you use your imagination of nature? Well, see, that's where I got into trouble. I started off thinking, okay, I'm just going to kind of, I know the V's and I know how things go off to the sides. And then I turned around and looked at one of the oak trees outside my window and went, duh. So a little bit of both. I was inspired by what's going on in my head, and then I refined it by taking some time to actually look at the trees and branches outside my door. Sue is still cutting scrap fabrics into useful patches. Wow. You are going to have so many scraps ready to stitch. I'm using a larger needle than I would normally use on these, just because I couldn't find my lower size, and it's nice. It's going to give a completely different effect. And it says, I'm trying to motivate myself to finish some of my pieces. I get the bulk done, but can't face the finished part. Perfection issues. Okay, raise your hand if anybody can relate. I absolutely can. That's why there's so many unfinished projects around the house. And actually, I was thinking about that today. I was thinking about how I've started so many things to have something different in the live streams. And I know I've said this in the past, but I need to keep going forward on things and not start something new unless it's part, like this is something new, but it's part of the larger wildscape that I'm working on. Because what I've discovered is that I evolve, of course, artistically, as we all do, the more I do. And then when I go back to those other pieces, my brain's not in the same place. Hey, Terry is here. She said, I am migraine free today. Yay. Sue said, I completed a quilt top last week out of nothing but blocks made from scrap patches. I could easily do another one. Wow. Andrea is knotting yarn for my current piece. Barbara says, Terry, I am glad to hear that. Yeah, Sue says, congratulations, Terry. Make the most of your migraine-free day. Barbara, I know where the needles are. They are buried underneath the pile of stuff in the studio. I just didn't want to go dig them out. I was being very lazy. I just thought, I just don't want to go in and do that right now. Sue says, Andrea, not Birdie Goes Crafting. Didn't you change your YouTube name a little while ago? I can't remember. I'm having enough trouble just remembering, what's on my own agenda here. And even then, not so much. Now that I'm into, gosh, Terry, what did you call it the other day? I thought it was the perfect description. Oh, body maintenance mode. It's like every week there's another doctor's office to go to. Terry said, it's been a rough week. This is my best day out of 10. Oh, the last 10. Oh, yikes. That's just, migraines, they suck. There's no other word for it. They just suck. I'm just glad you're feeling better. Okay. I did cut shorter yarn lengths this time. Only threaded 3 needles, but that's okay. Barbara said, I finally sorted through all my fabric stuff that I have here in my studio, and now I know where all my stitching needles are and where my bookbinding needles are. Oh, nice. That's got to feel good. Yeah, I've got a drawer right here to the side where, I have all my needles, and because I usually use tulip needles, they're in the nice little tubes, and I know I took the others into the studio, and I just didn't put, because I'm really bad about putting stuff away. Andrea said, oh, I'm logged into YouTube as Andrea today. And it says, husband just begged one of my last 3 humbugs candy off me, and now I am sad. 2 is not enough to get me through the night. Humbugs candy. What is a humbug? What kind of a candy is that? Carol said, oh, you and me. Lots of doctors lately and none actually helping. Oh, that stinks. I'm sorry they're not helping. We'll see. Tomorrow I get to go see a vascular surgeon, and then 2 weeks after that, I get to go see a physio, and then back into PT. Woohoo, Terry! I have a possible closing date. She's trying to sell one of her older property that she used to live on, February 21st. Oh, I am so excited for you, Terry. And it says a humbug is a hard candy, a swirl of mint and butterscotch. Ah. Yum. Oh, gosh, my grandfather used to always have butterscotch candies around. Butterscotch candies, and then those, I don't know what I think they called them like dinner mints. They were hard, and then you put them in your mouth, and they just absolutely melted. Those were his 2 things. When he quit smoking, he substituted the candies. Each of the countries has their candies that might be a little bit new to those of us in different countries. Sue said, I had my first interview with a new naturopath yesterday. It was good, which is a huge relief. Nice. Yeah, I'm always nervous when I have to meet somebody new. This vascular surgeon, this is completely new, so we'll see how that goes. And I couldn't find many reviews on her, although her training looked good, but I just needed to find somebody on our side of the mountain, because thinking about continuing care, I didn't want to think about, over time having to go back and forth over the hill. Yeah, body maintenance mode, it takes a lot out of a day. But that's the price we pay for getting older, right? Or for not doing the things we should be doing when we were younger, which was pretty much me. So I'm very excited to start putting the pieces together of this wildscape. It's so hard to stop creating more, elements, but I think until I start putting it together, I won't know what I need more of. So I'm waiting for my big board to come. And then we got to figure out, do I want to hang it from something that I might have to then get behind to get materials? Do I want to get like a rolling? I was thinking I could get like a wardrobe thing, and just hang it off of that and then wheel it, I guess, into the hall bathroom maybe to get it out of the way. Terry says, no new house. I've been holding the house for my niece since 2020. Now it is on the open market. A deposit and purchase sales was signed on Sunday. Woohoo! And it said I had to spend the whole day on the phone with the UK version of the IRS, was just about to get the numbers I needed from her, and she hung up on me. It was 4:59, so I suspect it wasn't an accident. Oh no, that's horrible and frustrating. Yeah, I got to start on tax stuff too. Haven't done that yet. Mouse said, what do you think you should have done when you were younger? I'm currently setting up a health schedule. Not eat so much junk food. That would be a big one. Get into a regular exercise program rather than hit and miss. But, I used to eat when I was working, it was nothing to have donuts whenever they brought them into the office, have fast food on the way home, junk food out of the vending machine. Yeah. So even though we stopped that like 10 years ago, probably about 10 years ago, maybe even more like 15, I guess now. When I was much younger, I wish that I had paid better attention to that, not let my weight get out of control, that kind of stuff. But it's never too late to improve where you're at. So that's what we're working on now. Barbara said, Mouse, my suggestion is to fall in love with walking. Yeah. And it says to make it a habit to walk every day. I wish I had started 20 or 30 years ago. Yeah. And, my knees now, I mean, they hurt, but they're much better than they were. And I'm looking forward to getting my next set of injections so that hopefully I can keep going. But it is enjoyable now to go out and walk with Tally. Philippa says, thank goodness I don't have access to junk food living rural. Yeah, when we lived, in San Jose, I mean, there was just something on every corner. So it was easy to grab stuff that really wasn't the best for us. And we were busy. I mean, we were working like crazy. Mouse says, I have to walk every day because I have a dog, but I'm hoping to turn her into a running dog. Oh. Sue said that would be a big help, Philippa. Yeah. Not having the access to the stuff. Yeah, and just not bringing the stuff into the house. I mean, we gave up soda pop many, many years ago. So not having it here, I don't miss it. Barbara said, when I was younger, I'd go over to the YMCA during my lunch hour at work and do a 45-minute dancing exercise program. Lots of fun and kept me in good shape. Sue said, I wish I could take our dog for a walk every day. Yeah, you've got other things that you have to figure out how to live your life around. Terry said, yes, Barb, I love walking. Plantar fasciitis has been quite an obstacle. I now wear the UFOs shoes and I can walk again. Oh, good point, Aunt. She said, be sure to ask the vet to clear her for daily running if you haven't yet. Yeah. Barbara said, now I just go line dancing twice a week, and that is really, really fun. Sue said, with our cold temps lately, the air quality has been very poor for me. Yeah. Hey, Mouse, how was the air quality out at your place recently with the fire out at the battery storage place? We had a couple days here where it was pretty stinky. I used to love to run when I was younger. I was really good at starting exercise stuff, but like everything else, the follow through. Mal said, I wonder if I've turned this dog into a night owl dog because I'm a night owl. I thought she could be a morning run dog, but she just stands around zoning out. Oh, Tally never turns down the opportunity to run unless there is an opportunity to dig. Then it's, Barb wants to know, Terry, what are the OOFA shoes? I have a friend with a bone spur. Would that help? When I go walking, I wear my Crocs because they actually give me a lot of great cushion. And I have had plantar fasciitis, and I still have a little bit of it, but it seems to help. Terry says, now I live on a truck route, poor air quality. Oh, ick. Yeah, can imagine that. Oh, it feels good to be doing French knots again. It has been a long time. I've been really focusing on all the components. You could see, maybe you've seen some of these guys. My grasses. Been doing all kinds of components. I mean, my desk behind me here is just filled with components. And I have a feeling that I probably don't have near enough for this huge piece, but until I get my board and I can kind of start laying things out, I won't know. Oh, this yarn, I tell you what, any yarn that's got some yak in it, it's just so silky smooth. It's just amazing to stitch with. Mal said, I don't think the air quality is too bad, but I may be compensating because neighbors have been very, very concerned. It's not bad today, but last week it really was. Sue said, very few people would say it feels good to be making French knots again. Yeah, I guess it's because it's my happy place. It's always, a base for something more. So, when I get a bunch of the French knots, then I can start to look at, okay, what happens when I bring these guys in and when I pile a whole bunch of that up on top of one another and I get the ground, or what happens when I bring the branches in. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's a great base. Mouse, your friends complaining on Nextdoor all the time. It just cracks us up when we see all the comments there. Terry said, UFOs are softer than Crocs and designed for foot pain recovery. They're available online with great customer service. And said, I had plantar fasciitis until I started hanging my heels off the stairs and changed my desk chair so I sit with my heels on the floor. Yeah. One of the things I have to do at PT is I hang with my heels off and then I go up on my toes, and I do a whole bunch of those exercises and then stretch with just hanging one heel at a time off. And it definitely helped the plantar fasciitis. My calves got super, super tight, but they've always been super tight. Barbie, hey, long time no see, friend. I am so glad to see your name pop up. How are you? I saw you navigating a sticky conversation recently on Facebook, and I thought you were brilliant at keeping things calm. Yeah, Nextdoor is a bit much. And it says, remember to hit the thumbs up. Terry said, yes, likes, please. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Barbie, what have you been up to? Are you doing any photography? Are you doing any other stuff? Are you working in your garage studio that is, I'm hoping, all put together for you now the way you want it? What I love about starting this new batch of French knots is I can just go random. And then whenever I decide what other color I want to mix in here, I can come in here and add it. And it's, I don't know, it's just going to be great. It can't be anything but great because I'm having a good time while I'm doing it, right? Isn't that the way the story goes? I can see I should have threaded more. Oh, Barbie said I threw up my hands and quit on that conversation. They both started messaging me. Oh, that's too bad. I thought you were navigating it very well when I had checked in. It's just, yeah. People can be not fun. But you guys are fun. Lots of fun. Okay, we have to do 3 needles. Sis, hello, hello. It's been a long time since I've seen you here in a live. I hope you're doing okay. She says, I'm happy to see your awesome work. I'm going to try it. Well, I want you to try it just because I have a good time doing it. Ooh, Barbie started a scrappy quilt. Nice. I keep eyeing, because I've got so much fabric that I won't be using to stitch on. I keep eyeing it and thinking, you know, I could just put it all together in like this great big something and then just gradually, you know, over time stitch over it. I'm thinking I might do them in the different colors. And it says, Susan, to go back to an earlier comment you made, I enjoy seeing how your pieces progress. So I, for one, don't need a new project every live. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, such a people pleaser that I second guess decisions, but now I'm realizing it's okay to put me first, especially this is my year of creating a large body of work that I will have for entering in shows and eventually approaching a gallery. Barbie said my studio was functioning. Then I did a stash and dash over the holidays and stuff got stashed in there. Oh dear. Yes. Mel said, and I suppose I should check with the vet, but my dog stands around acting like I'm a senior dog and can't run until she sees something. Then she turns into I can chase other dogs for 10 minutes. That's funny. And is she limping or anything after she goes crazy? Barbie said the quilt is going to be a totally repurposed thing with swirls and twirls and all hand done. Nice. I want to make quilt tops, but I have no desire to do the quilting part. So I'm thinking maybe just some, I don't know, like crib-sized quilt wall hangings that aren't actually quilted. They're just stitched pieces, I guess is what they would be. I know, always art for yourself first. It's hard. When I first started doing YouTube, you know, it was just doing what everybody else was doing with paper. And then as I began to find my own way, I didn't want to lose my people. You know, I never set out to be like this YouTuber. It's more just hanging out with friends. And I have to remember that in my head. I do want to get back to doing some other videos, but YouTube is more a tool for connections than anything else for me. Mouse says she doesn't limp afterwards. She shakes herself off, then trots out. Yeah, so check with the vet and make sure that she'd be okay to go for running, but I don't see why not. Barbie said, Mouse, that's totally my pug. She can't get off the couch until we have visitors, and then she's a maniac. Yeah, Tally is an absolute maniac for company or going someplace new. We're going to have to figure that out. Our current thing is she doesn't want to come up out of the yard until she wants to come up out of the yard. So I don't know whether we've encouraged the habit or if it's just now finally she's comfortable enough that the husky stubbornness is really coming out. She's shepherd smart with husky stubbornness. And that's okay. We manage it. Sue said, I'm blessed to have a son who operates a long arm quilting machine for me. You're right, Ent. And you need to remind me of that every so often. And it says if they're really yours and they come to see what you're up to. Yeah. And, you know, I think, you know, right around the pandemic, maybe just before the pandemic and then through the pandemic, a lot of people on YouTube, you know, we fell into the, you know, following people that were super successful and how can I do this? And, you know, it's not like a get rich quick thing by any means. But a lot of people fell into the, you know, I want to be this big YouTuber. And I just kind of was going along. I didn't really think about it. I didn't make a YouTube plan. And so now it's just, yeah, just kind of this art group that I'm in is really helping me kind of laser my focus because, of course, being in body maintenance mode now at this stage in my life, there's less time to art when you have to do more things to take care of your body. and have that, that work-life balance. Barbie said, Sue, you lucky girl. Terry said, my little guy likes it when I get silly and pretend to chase him. He acts like a puppy. And he's a senior dog, a Sheltie. Barbie said, I didn't know anything about YouTube until well after the pandemic. Yeah, I think that was it for a lot of people. I mean, we were forced to stay home and find our entertainment, via the screen. It really allowed a lot of us to connect for the first time. I discovered how much I enjoy things like YouTube and Zoom. Sue says, same here, Barbie. Yeah, so I think, and YouTube now, you have to make it work for you. What is it that you want out of being online? I love Zooms because I can see the other people, but I love being able to share things with people on YouTube and Instagram. Those are my two favorite places, is YouTube and Instagram. Carol said, yes, this time with YouTube, my new channel is growing naturally. Nice. Yeah, and I know I have a whole lot of people that are still following me on YouTube from my paper days. So even though I have a lot of, subscribers, I think a lot of them, they just haven't cleaned up their subscription feed, and that's okay. Eventually they tune out and it will find its own level. Barbara said, that's what I did during the pandemic. I found a bunch of artists who were offering more because we all had to stay home, and it was good. Barbie said, during the pandemic, I was a crazy doom scroller. It was such a waste of time. Terry said, my life didn't change during shutdown except for grocery shopping. Yeah, I mean, we're always homebodies. So yeah, shopping for some things became a little more difficult, but the online connection was nice. And I didn't, I wasn't stitching during the pandemic. It was all about paper back then. Now I still have some paper that I need to probably let go of. And then I would have more shelves for more yarn. Barbara said, I've fallen into that trap almost since the election. I'm determined not to do doom scrolling. Barbie said, I'm here today to break the doom scrolling I've been doing this week. Yay. Are you following any kind of a pattern with your scrappy quilt, Barbie, or are you just like grabbing stuff that you like and stitching it together? And it said, a few of my favorite tubers really changed their style to appeal to wider audiences during 2020. I couldn't keep up with them. Yep. I just realized I wanted to do something different than what everybody else was doing. And it's taken me a while to find it. From the paper, and I went to the eco dyeing, which I really enjoyed, but of course, so did a whole lot of other people. The Just Because books, that was a nice, shift for me. And that kind of led me to exploring more texture and stitch, which then led me to what I'm doing now. And I'm really tickled. A gal contacted me recently. She's studying for her A-levels, and she picked me to research. So she's been asking me questions. We've been corresponding, and that's kind of fun. And that's something that came across from being online and people seeing what you're doing and it relating to them. Barbara said, I discovered junk journals back then. I think that's when junk journals really took off, right? Barbie said, yes, I'm following someone who are making a rose block kind of thing. Oh, neat. Carol said, I have a hand-sewn hexagon queen-size quilt. Do you think stitching on it would enhance or take away from it? That's a good question. Hexagons, they're small, but I don't know. I could see like a feather stitch going across the whole thing, something, viney across it all. I think it depends on the effect that's going to make you the happiest. I kind of want to take all my greens and just start stitching them together, no matter what size they are, all my green scraps, stitching them together no matter what size they are, and then stitch all over it with the leftover bits of greens that I have. And it says, see, that's the thing for me. If you are interested and want to explore something, I'll want to see it. Doesn't matter how many others are doing it or not doing it, but don't do it for me. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, it's a flower garden style. Then I could totally see you doing vines and French knots and lazy daisies. Queen size, that's a big quilt to be stitching on. Yeah, and it, what Aunt said, I mean, it comes back to everything that I believe about any kind of creative project we take on. It has to be something that's making us happy. I'm doing French knots because they make me happy and because I need more sections of green for my big piece. Sometimes I'll do a video or a live when I'm trying to figure something out. And I'm only doing the things that are like exciting to me. And if they're not, then, I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting your time. Barbie said, Icky Chick is the person that got me started on this project. Okay, there's someone for people to go check out. Icky Chick. Carol said, I hand stitched the quilt over COVID. Wow. Yeah, I don't think I would want to do one that I would actually sleep with, but I think a wall hanging of some kind. But then I start thinking, there's also this, I do want to keep the mindset that I'm continuing to work on pieces that I can enter in shows and eventually approach a gallery about, hopefully having me. So then I kind of feel like I need to stay for a while in the stitch lane. Sue wants to know, Barbie, is she on YouTube or someplace else? Terry said, I like junk journaling, but I work it into my rotation. Jewelry and barrettes, ornaments, Christmas wreaths, fairies, gardening, pressed flowers, crazy quilting, collage, and more. Yep. And then all the things that you make for your Etsy store, your digitals and your ephemera and stuff. And I think that's good too. I think that's why the components have been so much fun lately. It's like, okay, for a while I'm going to make vines. Okay, now I'm going to make the grasses. Okay, now I'm going to make the branches. And this afternoon I'm going to work on logs. Oh, Barbie says she's on YouTube, really sweet, and focuses on aging crafters. Thank you, Terry, for the link. Icky Chick Design. We'll have to go check that out. Yeah, please let us know if somebody is really inspiring you that we should all go check out. And it says, and watching you do your French knots has, believe it or not, taught me many things, not the least how to do better French knots. Oh, I'm not trying to do perfect French knots. You guys should know that by now. Mine are wobbly. There's, big chunks hanging over the side sometimes, and I don't care because the whole way that Wildscapes evolved was me trying to cover up a bunch of French knots that I felt were less than perfect. And so now I don't care. Carol said, I need to collect more stuff for crazy quilting and material. Always a good reason to go, do more. When I was finishing my branches last night, and I'm like, oh, I don't have any more of this thin yarn. I'm going to have to go to Etsy and see what I can find. I haven't tried them with the fingering, but what I like, okay, maybe you guys will see the difference here. This is Appleton's wool. And so it's a very thin wool. And then this is a fingering that's been hand dyed. And so you can see how, this is like a little bit looser and this is a tighter weave. And so when you take a tighter piece of yarn and you wrap it, you have a tendency to see, gosh, I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me see if I do more. Now, you can see the lines. I don't know if that makes sense. You can see the lines of the wrap, and you don't see them as much when you're using the really thin stuff. And I don't know if that makes any sense, and it might be only to me, but to me, that's what makes me happy about working on the branches with that type of yarn. As always, it's like I am collaborating with whatever materials I can find. And unfortunately, so many of them are discontinued. So sometimes it becomes a challenge. I only have a certain number of skeins of something, or maybe only a partial one skein. Like I fell in love with this green. It's really soft. It's perfect for something I want to use. And I only have 1.5 skeins of it. And it's a weird discontinued brand. If anybody has that hanging around in your studio, let me know and I'll buy it from you. Barbie says she's also doing a landscape scrappy quilt that I might try if this one works. Barbie said, thanks for finding her, Terry. She looks like a channel I would like a whole lot. Marion's World is my only other real cozy place to be on YouTube these days. What kind of stuff does she do, Aunt? Carol says, they are perfectly imperfect. Mine are wonky and I love them. Yes. Barbie said, Carol, I'm using old silk ties and some old nightgowns I had. Oh, and some sari scraps. It's fun using this funky material. Okay, what is Marion's channel called? Looks like moss on roids. This, yeah, isn't that fabulous? And for some reason, I guess this kind of stuff seems to be made in Turkey. And it's called Marion's World. Okay. Carol said, Barbie, cool. Yes, I have just a small amount of things since I moved cross country. Yeah, that clean out when we move. Marion's World. Okay. Handcrafts of all kinds. If one of our mods wants to grab the link to Marion's World, it would be great to share with. Oh, thank you. There you go. Aunt Terry grabbed it for us. Let's see. And I need to save the other one. One sec here. I'm trying to save these links. Yeah, I really love the any of the eyelash. Like here's a brown one. And what happens with a lot of these is they come wrapped around another yarn. And so I separate them. And then you end up with the great eyelash. And then I've got this, which is just an acrylic and looks like I could do different things with it. I rarely leave the two yarns together. This one was just a single one. And the thing about working with this is you can really see whatever it is, the chain stitch that holds it together. So I have to be a little bit more careful as I pull them around so that I can hide that. So it looks a little bit more natural. Barbie said, Carol, I'm using an old sheet for a base and a fleece sheet for batting. Perfect. Terry said, Marion looks artistically ADD. I can relate to that. Nice. I think a lot of us can relate to that. Yeah, and you get two yarns for one that way, Carol. You know, a lot of the eyelash yarn, the really soft stuff comes like that. And anytime you're looking at yarns, do I have another one here? I had for a while. No, I guess I took it back to the studio. Now this one wouldn't work as well, but no, I don't have it out. There's a lot of yarns that will come with 2 or 3 things put together, and you just don't know how different they might look until you pull some apart. I mean, don't do it all if you're not sure. You know, take a foot of it and separate it, you know, cut it off and separate it and see what you think. But, you know, you can get multiple lengths of yarn that are completely different than what the original one is. And a lot of times they'll have like the greens and then they'll put it with an orange, which doesn't work for my stuff. So I can separate out the orange and save that for, you know, working on like an undersea one. And so Terry, she would love that description. Carol said, I bet I could do that with some of the chunky yarns my daughter-in-law gave me. Absolutely. This morning before I came on, I did find some wool that I really liked, a small ball of it, but it was 3-ply, and I've been separating it so that I could have the single ply to do my branches. Terry said, my daughter and I came up with that term. Nice. Mal said, that's what drives spending for me, the scarcity method mindset of what if I really love this material and there isn't enough? Absolutely. I just ordered, oh gosh, a lot of skeins of something because I was surprised to find it, and I was so grateful. I think I ordered like 10 balls of this weird yarn because it just makes these really neat, imperfect pom-poms. Barbie said, I think Marion lost her husband and started her channel because she couldn't sleep, so she stitched. Her soft sculptures are amazing. I can't wait to go check that one out. Hello, Peace of Mind Designs. I loved your one with all the branches on it. Thank you so much. I'm going to be making lots more branches now that I figured out a method that works for me. Barbie said, Mouse, I do that too. Yeah, I think a lot of us do. And when you go to a thrift store, you have no choice. So I'm shopping a lot on eBay and Etsy because I can, at least put in the names of the yarns and search for them that way. Aunt said, she and Susan are sister souls in many ways, I think. They have both taught me that you don't have to be precious and perfectionist about creating to produce stunning art. Absolutely, yes. And the thing is, driving yourself toward perfection, it's very stressful, and have you ever tried to stitch, where you you pull everything really, really tight, okay, and then you pull the knot through and it's really, really tight and it doesn't sit pretty on the thing. The stress, it goes through to the threads, it goes to the needle, it goes through to the fabric, and then it gets woven into your piece of art. Whereas if you are just free falling into the art and creating just because, it's a whole lot easier, a whole lot more fun, and the stress doesn't find its way into the art. I really believe that the energy that we put into the art shows up. And when I hand delivered a piece of art last week, I absolutely got to see that because she was touching things. She was, oh, Peace of Mind is CJ, used to be Colorado Blue Skies. Hey, CJ, long time no see. Mel said, then I realized I needed to destash because I don't like the material at all. Yes. Yeah, there's still a lot of material I need to get rid of because I'm not doing that kind of work and I don't anticipate, and I'd rather have room for more yarn. Carol says it does. Your soul is in each stitch. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know when I look back at old videos, I can see pieces of work that I was doing because I saw somebody else must have done that and I should try it. But it wasn't something that was driving me to create it. Or when I was trying to finish something for entering into a show and I had to stop myself. It's like, no, you're trying to do something for the wrong reasons. Just skip this show and keep working on the other stuff because that's where the joy is. And it says, my mother is a professional artist, so it is a lifetime of me denying I'm artistic and then feeling like if I do dare to make something, it must be awesome or it isn't art. I know, therapy, yes. Well, and I think it's hard if you have somebody in your family that is already successful in an area that you want to play in. I don't have any artists in my family that I know of. I didn't have any writers in the family that I knew of when I was writing. I think of people that come from, say, literary families where, your father or your mother was a famous, writer of some kind, and then you want to go into it. I think it would be hard. That would be much harder. And so I think you need to maybe give yourself grace for stepping into the same arena as your mother. And, think about maybe, depending on your relationship with her, what drives her to create, and perhaps celebrate the connections. And maybe just ask her, is she trying to be perfect? Is she trying to be awesome every time? Or is she just following a train of something in her brain? I'm I'm doing things that get me excited, that, the branches, I got so excited when I got good branches because outside in the yard, one of the things I love most of all is the wood, because as the wood breaks down and decomposes and feeds the microhertz underground, well, that's what feeds the dirt, which then feeds the plants that come up. Also, the wood is a good toy for the dog because she tries to drag it around the yard and stuff. But Mouse said, I was recently watching someone who was stamping, and she said, I took out my stress in this stamp. It was really banging and squashing things before I realized I needed to lighten up. Yeah, and sometimes we do create because there is a stress or a frustration that has to come out of that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a good time if you want to rip fabric scraps. You get that wonderful sound of ripping fabric or paper. Some people have, doodle cloths, where you just experiment with all kinds of things. They can have an angry cloth where they're just stitching all their anger. And somebody, I can't remember who it was, showed on Instagram the back of a doodle cloth because that was where they felt like all their emotions were. Barbie said, and one of my sisters is an author and one is a concert pianist. Both of them have their PhD. And then there's me. Oh boy, that's a lot of pressure, Barbie. Yes. Barbie says, so I can relate. And it says, yes, you understand my pain. Yeah. Carol reminds us, no two artists will do the same art. It will look similar, but as we talked earlier, it's your own inner self that will shine. When you let it. Now, some people really try, I've had people ask me to give them like a step-by-step how they could make exactly what I had made. And I said, even if I tell you step-by-step, it's not going to come out the same. You can't duplicate what I've done because, number one, some of them, I'm buying hand-dyed yarns from places that you probably aren't going to buy from. I'm using not recycled, but discontinued pieces that I find on Etsy or thrift shops or eBay. And, the tension that I hold my yarn with is going to be different from somebody else. The needle I might choose, the background fabric, all of that goes into it. And you shouldn't want to create just like somebody else. You can certainly, though, be inspired by somebody else. And I love that when somebody shares something with me and said, you inspired me to do this. And I can see the French knots, and I can see the bullion stitches, and I can see the drizzle stitches, and I can see the greens. But it's not my work. It's their work. It's their soul on the canvas, so to speak. Terry said, like that, if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound if no one to hear it? An artist makes art even if no one sees it. It is our soul. No judgment can confirm or deny us. Yes. And it says, thing is, she is good. One of those people who can paint anything and it's glorious. She painted to pay the bills for decades to the point where she rarely paints for joy anymore. So I would challenge you to just really try to forget that that's your mom. It is. Yeah, Barbie, it's sad that she doesn't paint for joy. And go into your creative mode thinking, well, I'm not going to let that happen to me. It's a great example that you are not going to let happen to you. You are going to create with joy yourself. You are going to do something differently. And it says she has more practice and fills demands well. That is a bonus. Yeah. And the fact that she was able to do all of that, I mean, it's sad that she doesn't paint for joy, but what an accomplishment to have been able to pay the bills with her art rather than to go do a dead-end job that, at that time would have really killed her soul even more. You can't change her experience, but you can learn from her experience and not let it block you. If she was painting to pay the bills, she probably wasn't trying to she was good, but she probably wasn't trying to create perfect work. She was trying to paint whatever was going to sell in order to pay the bills. If you don't have to create your art in order to pay a bill, why does it matter how good it is? Why does it matter whether anybody else in the world loves what you created other than you? if I never sell another piece of art, if I never get into an art show, if I never get accepted by a gallery, I'm still going to be stitching. I'm still going to be creating what I create because I don't create for anybody other than me. I want to see if I can create a piece that's better than the piece I did before, a piece that has more texture, that makes more people think, that's just like the woods I saw. That's just like this walk I like to take. That looks just like my backyard. That's, I don't know. Soapbox time. Yes, Carol says, as most of us say, you do you. Don't try to compare yourself to anyone. And it is hard when it's a family member. It is hard. JJ with joy. Hello, stranger. How are you? I hope you're doing well. And so you can perhaps see why I subbed to watch you arting for joy, Susan. Yes, thank you. I have a knot underneath here, so I need to give myself some room. You're doing good? I'm so glad to hear it. Hey, Mama Boom Bam. Great message of inspiration. I'm glad you think so. Thank you. I wasn't paying attention and I let myself get knotted up under here. There we go. All right. Terry says, Mama Boom Bam, are you new or are you one of our other regulars that's decided to give themselves a new name, which happens? Carol said, that's what I'm doing this year, stitching for me. Carol, the piece that I've seen on Facebook, because I haven't been over to your new channel yet, are you doing that on your YouTube channel so people can see it? Because it's really interesting the way you are weaving differently. And you're getting some wonderful textures in there. Now, there may come a time, next week, next month, whatever, where you guys have to remind me of all the things we talked about today. Mama says, I'm subscribed, but don't get to see the lives much. Well, I am glad that you are here with us today. Carol said, yes, most of it's on my YouTube. Okay, so you guys need to go check out Carol's channel because she's doing this really interesting thing with her weaving. It's not something that you would normally see, and it might give you guys some ideas. But I was going to say, you guys might need to remind me down the road of what I talked about today, because it's not like I'm always up, up, up and full of joy. Just ask my poor husband, who has to talk me off the ledge sometimes. Ah, thank you, Terry. Mama says, hello to everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome. I'm coming to the end of my live today, Mama, but I do hope you'll be able to come back and join us. And it said, Mouse, the stamp therapy is so real. I have ruined several of my lino prints by angry battering them. You know, but sometimes maybe that is the whole purpose of your art, is just to let your feelings come to the surface. I rewrote my artist statement, which I'm going to get up on my website here after this. And one of the things I was talking about is that I hope that my art will help you feel something, that it will allow your feelings to come to the surface, because so many times we just push our feelings back down. Joy says, I never thought of using 2 strings to do this stitch. Well, this is because it's a base for the Wildscape, and this is a fingering weight yarn, and it's just perfect for French knots when I double it. It just gives me lots of texture, and then when I start piling more French knots over the top of it, it's really going to be really nice. More strands, the bigger the knot. Yeah, and the needle also makes a difference. If I was stitching this with a smaller needle, my knots wouldn't be quite so big. They'd be a little different. Yeah, Andrea, that's a good one. She said, I find needle felting good for frustration. You know what I found, though, with needle felting is I have to be careful to keep my other hand out of the way, because if I'm really frustrated and I'm felting, my fingers tend to like scrunch in, and then I'm going to stab myself with one of those dang needles. And they hurt. Barbara said, thank you for all the channel finding, Terry. I'm distracted with a project. Oh, thank you, Joy. She said, it looks great. Sue said, I love the saying among stitchers that our work proves we are capable of stabbing something or someone thousands of times. See my needle? This is what I'm stitching with right now. This is a chenille 18. I don't know if you can actually see that, but these are 18s. And I could go down one size, but when I want to do just like a lot of randoms for my base, I don't really care as much. I just want to be able to thread the needle real fast because I'm going to have more French knots over the top of this. Andrea, Terry wants to know, Andrea, are you making voodoo felting? All right, folks, my voice is telling me my hour is up. The clock is telling me my hour is up. I am going to sign off so I can go do a couple things on my website before my next meeting at 2 o'clock today with my mentor. I hope you guys had a good time today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it a lot. I really do. I hope you all have a wonderfully creative week, and I will see you hopefully next time. Okay, Sue. Good that you had a phone call from your busy daughter, though. Thank you, the new folks that have joined us or people we haven't seen for a while. And again, I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye for now.